Thanks everyone for coming in on time again. We have especially these days, still a little bit of a packed agenda. So again, this is pretty flexible. Just if you have any questions, just interrupt. Also, Yusheng is used to that. We've switched the agenda again, trying to resonate the culture here that we're flexible and really open for your input. So let's try to get that to keep that going. So next hour and a half up until lunch is Yusheng about this new user-driven IFC import certification. As you know, the export certification now is based on actual user metrics of users using IFC in practice, uploading it to IFC validation service. We analyze that anonymously and we generate scorecards. We want to do something similar for import, actual user data, asking users how their IFC is importing into their tools, using those metrics from those users to also generate some kind of a, I'm ruining your presentation here, right? So I'm sorry.
Spoil it.
So Yusheng has made a really nice thought leadership on that as well. So hopefully we get your input on that. So again, please provide your thoughts and ideas on this. And then afterwards, we use all of the time left until lunch for validation service. All right?
Okay, let's start.
Everyone knows Yusheng, right?
It's okay. Hi. Yeah, let's talk about IFC import certification. In the next, I'll take 15 or 20 minutes. We'll through a little bit of this content. We'll look at how it works, IFC export certification, current import certification situations, and our current process, how to dealing with applying requests of IFC import certification, and all those challenges we are facing, and a little bit proposal how we moving forward. So most of you know this slide, know this page. The validation service is a huge step, making our old way of export certification towards a matrix-oriented, based on users, real data, real users file, and analyze validated user file scorecard generated based on functional parts. For those always consistent, correct, we give it a green. For those maybe have error or maybe contain some, sometimes it's wrong, we have another yellow or red. For those it's not implemented, I'll never say they got a green part of function part. So basically the scorecard based on matrix generates the IFC export certification. It's supportive for the final export certification. And we want to take this kind of matrix-based approach to similar for the import certification. For nowadays, last week I did a quick check. We since 2010 to nowadays we do have 121 software certification were recorded in our webpage, and 71 among them are import certifications. 57 completed. There are still 14 progress. And for those different versions, IFC 2x3, we have 48 certification and 23 for IFC 4. Not yet for the IFC 4.3. But with the currently with the global adoption of IFC 4, IFC 4.3, this number is growing and the demand for the import certification is rising every year. So here is actually our current buildingSMART, our current process, how to dealing with IFC import certification. Start with software vendor to apply a software import certification. It's per software and per version, just like the export certification. And we have this kind of 15 minimal criteria for import certification, which all published and it's all transparent in our GitHub page. It's when it also has the sample files. So basically, the software vendor takes the sample files, takes the 15 criteria, and starting to implement the import IFC. When it's done, they'll ask us, the BSI team, will check it from the start to the end, we'll give some feedbacks. let the developers knows what is doing great, what is not yet completed. Then they take this kind of feedbacks to continue debug, fix, do some improvement until all those 15 criteria were all passed. So if you want to know more, there is a link in our GitHub, so you can find detailed this 15 minimal criteria. But what's to mention, this part of 15 criteria is not concrete detail to check. It's not value check. It's just their set of tests confirm the software can correctly interpret the OpenBeam data in a consistent standard-based way. And maybe a little bit too small. We just take some example, like they have first one, we got visual geometry. There are some aspects or criteria around the assembly and their information, groups, systems, special breakdown. So basically, import is quite different than export, because export, we just got once we got the file from the user, we have the information, we can run some automation check. But import is require human judgment. We need to evaluate where the data is interpreted and presented correctly in the different software, user interface of different software. So it's quite not yet automatable. So the challenge we are facing is from all different sides. For the software side, the vendor are free to define how they want to interact with the user. There is normally almost not one fixed answer to meet one criteria. We can have different answers, different approaches. Interface, the UI, the user interface of each different tool is quite different, and we have different configuration, different user guide or different way to import IFC in different software. For the user, they always ask a question, can we rely on this kind of certification results? It's all transparent. How I can see the transparent how the result of a process. If you're certified with let's say the example files, did this will work for my actual work, for my actual project? And also for buildingSMART, we want scaling this in operation with all those rising demand of global IFC import certification, and we are rising pressure on this operation process. So the idea is simple. The idea is how we could, the key answer we want to try to answer is to how we could involve the community more directly in this, enabling like user-driven test feedback. For example, we could break down the criteria in different test cases, and each test cases have user could fill out a result. For example, if we take the first one, general visual geometry check, it could have different test cases. For example, if we I took the example files from buildingSMART GitHub as an example, so you maybe want to check the overall geometry is aligned, there is no overlap tiles. They may have part of house presented in the geometry. You can see it in the viewer and other stuff. So the test cases, if we look at a little bit in the details, the test cases could be given by some key information like a title, description, expectation. Some of those may have clear expectation. Like for geometry, I already know what you are expecting, so I can help you give your expectation when the user fill out this kind of form-like or questionnaire-like. They can check if it's all correct, all presented. Other things for property value or some material value, we can maybe provide some drop-down or option to choose. And for the user side, they can give the value of the real feedback. It's passed or it's failed or it's partial correct. And also they could leave some comments, like they can add some comments, give some evidence, like a screenshot or some videos. That's no matter, it's not just giving the software vendor more feedback, direct feedback, as well as details. Also, if the reports generalized, we can have more detailed and detailed for other users to know how to make the trust and how to do the import. So basically, the key idea is a similar like scorecard. We have this kind of form-like or maybe questionnaire to user based on actual import files, and eventually based on different global metrics to display a final result of import certification. So for our perspective, it's quite beneficial. For the software side, we get presence on the market. We have the direct link with actual users. We get the feedback loop much more better, much more quicker. And for the community side, they get more knowledge on how to import IFC. They get trust on the certification. They get to try. They can try to different tools, play with it, and yeah, overall build a community with trust and openness. The report and record could be transparent and all published. So also it's more sustainable and scalable on the evaluation process. Here is still an early age demo to just explain a little bit more how the IFC import certification could be look like. We could have the part of certification metadata, the header part. What's the certification part? Is the certification the software name, the vendor's name, the version with the target IFC version. And after that is the overall metrics, just like the scorecard. We can even duplicate or reusing the same color schema, so green, red, yellow, gray. It's just to show the overview of the metrics. And furthermore, if we want, we can attach the evaluation reports, detailed reports with evidence like screenshot or videos in below of the import certification. So that's basically the idea. I prepared some questions to trigger discussion, but feel free to raise your idea or give your question. We are here to learn and listen. Thank you. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Shout. Yeah. This one?
So, number 6, inheritance of type level attributes on instance level. I would think for many software, for Revit in particular, you have an instance and you have a type. And the instance has properties and the type has properties. You'd want to see the type property of the type and the instance property of the instance.
Yeah.
And you can get it from the instance of the type, but you wouldn't listen, right? The type properties on the instance per se. Right? So let's say instance had a fire rating, type had a fire rating, or instance has nothing, type had a fire rating. Again, you click on the instance, you go to the type, and then you see the fire rating there. Without fail. Certification is that, or is that am I misinterpreting number 6?
No. So this list is an already available list. I just shared the link in the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
This is already how we currently do software certification. So it's under there. So see official criteria. So currently, if you apply for software certification, this is a list that we use to go on randomly testing if things that have a type, if the user indeed has the ability to also get all of the properties that belong to the type. So it doesn't have to be like Solibri does it in the same tab with a italic tab. But for some way, the user has to be able to get that information on it. So not copied, but
I would recommend that instead of are present on their instances, that you replace are accessible from their instances.
yeah, perfect. And this is our GitHub. You know how pull requests, engagement, interaction.
I just did it here.
Perfect. Good. But this is perfect input here. We need this.
Also, I think it's a perfect example, like different software will have different approach to do the same requirements. So finally, we can't we can't say there is only one way to do this kind of criteria. So maybe let the user to involve, give some feedback once user think it's valid, it's completed, it's all correct. That's good enough.
Similar, as you're saying, is we have similar issues with other criteria that we're checking. So when we do these live calls with vendors, everyone has its own flavors or way to implement grouping. Okay, some tools you simply right click and see the group. Some other nests in the project browsers, and I remember we had to, even the developers of the tools struggled a bit to get to. The information was there. It's gonna have probably a bit of a challenge to explain that they're the group, but at least it's there. Here, if I understand your feedback, it's not things really two things versus inherit. These are two different things. For instance, I can get the type, then the property is and stays with the type versus the property is defined at the type that it's inherited.
And I think that the latter would go against our is that property as property. See that it's up to you as a human to decide that the type property should be literally or
And I guess that's what I mean. It is inherited. Which one is? Maybe there is no right and wrong.
listen, I would argue that both are right. That is unless IFC is going to prescribe that to be compliant with IFC, you must copy instance. You must copy the template of this list. That is a requirement of IFC. Right? And of course, then we can discuss whether you're here to disagree with that and actually have a vote or whatever. Right? I would say that, in general, I would say that there are different, as you say, there are different ways that you can view the data. And the important thing is that a user understands how to see the group of system data or how to check the attribute. It is not every software is have to, what they think is a superior way of playing data.
In this case, we check if is on the type level either present in the instance or accessible by it.
Yeah. And the reason I said accessible is because present is accessible.
Yeah.
Can you refresh?
Already did it. Let's say the 6.
So the title is now changed to accessibility, of information, and the sentence says available. The information is available on the instance. Is it big enough?
Everyone else?
Because it has to cover both use cases, right? It's not one or the other. One or the other is fine, but
What if the spread are available on instances of that type?
on their instances, yeah.
Well, again, the issue is if I'm looking at the literal instance, right? Just some, yes, I think so.
Yeah.
And it will tell you, oh, this is heavy.
Yeah, you can see, you can make it, you can even see like if the property is overridden on the instance. So you can see both the type value and the instance value. But that's just how we do it.
Right, and then it's a very big difference. Right, that definitely works. And then Revit, because you have a strong concept of instance of this type, you go to the look at the type, and there's that. Right, so is that right or wrong, or better or worse? That depends on the user. But I think they're both right.
course, I think it's the that approach is from the other side. What's wrong? What's wrong is that you have a lot of privacy walls. Doors, I think it's, walls is not the first basic that we see, but we see a lot of doors that have type, and in the type, it defines the manufacturer. And it's just lost. Right. So what we're checking is that information important? How a user can find it in the tool, that's not up to the check. But the information has to be available. And the only way to check it is from a user perspective. Somehow to that.
Well, I hope it's not a dumb question. But in the number 8, we have the project site viewing story. I don't know if it's just an example or if it's mandatory, because for example, in oil and gas, we have the problem that on field that we extract the oil in Brazil is especially in Brazil, we have oil under sea, so we don't have a viewing, neither a story. So we can have the project. The site can be the bay area when the oil is extracted, but we don't have building. We adapted it to building to the ship be the building, and the story is how deep is in the sea. But I believe it's not the semantically correctly.
That's the way it is.
I think what we're seeing here is a trend that's basically highlighting that these days, especially if we want to crowdsource this, because now we had a 10-minute discussion on number 6, and we understood among ourselves. But when tomorrow you ask the user to judge that, and they say, "Oh, I'm Revit import doesn't have this and so on," wrong. Okay, and then they flag you. So the challenge, I guess, or from Yushen's point of view, is that when we crowdsource these, 6, 8, everything has to be crystal clear and unambiguous to everybody. So going big helps us to cover everything. Then probably examples or guidance to users how not to quickly misjudge your tool will be needed.
Yeah, that was the more interesting part. That was simple.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Just to give you a bit more context, so we have 2 versions of this list. This is the publicly available, because when you do certification, you need to be public about what you are checking. You can't be a black box after you pay, we tell you. So this is the public version, but we also have a more private version with actual examples. Like, click on this object of this example file. You should be seeing this and that. So yeah, that would be also crowdsource something that would be more specific.
Here, Mike. So my biggest concern comes around, of course, if you're looking at people, even if you don't actually know that yes, is a problem. My example I love is around someone trained that in the viewer, they had their extruded dodecahedron or dodecagon, that is extruded dodecagon as, and the reason was that the viewer just assumed if you have 12 points along a circle, it's very faceted representation. And like, no, this user actually did try to create an extruded dodecagon, and so in that case, it was an import issue, but in another case, it might have been that the cylinder was exported as a deck, and some user says, wait a minute, this is supposed to be a cylinder instead of a decagon. Like, yeah, it's fast, right? So I would hope that there would be some training, I think, or something that we can check that the user actually understands what they're looking at.
I think there should be a couple of
Right.
to do some user kind of so that they gather some volunteers who do this with the tools, and then give the feedback to the vendors to explain that okay, or the fail, and maybe also the pass. Who knows? Like, if there is a failure, the vendors can explain how this can be achieved. If the vendor says that the cannot be achieved, then fail. Maybe.
Yeah. Actually, a nice bridge to the next presentation of Yusheng after lunch.
Yeah.
Because if you turn that around, you're not asking the user to just randomly do it and then explain how we should have done it afterwards.
Yeah.
We want to turn that around by the vendors providing the video. This is how you should be doing it. This is how, which buttons to click to find that information. And you provide that to a buildingSMART knowledge base website, maybe. That will also help to provide a central place on how does every tool organize it. Fusion has a really nice presentation on that as well after lunch. That's being a little bit in front of users screwing up, right?
Yeah.
Before Jamil, I want to ask Angel, what about if we are thinking about to let actual files, users files, passing the validation service first after we give it in the import certification, let user to respond some questions. But are you thinking about if good to let user put check with their actual files or just with sample our example files? Because example files we are sure we are drawing it's a cylinder, it's not where geometry we are sure of the information source. But in other sides, it's fixed data, it's not user actual data.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good in some way to validate the certifiers. So it could be that you give them a test or something along those lines. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Here's a file we know is perfectly good if they fail it, or here's a file that has 3 errors. Fine. But the certification, like something, right? Yeah. You're not going to get that. There's no way that you can pass that. Something was brown originally, properly made blue file. You're not going to find that in a validation certifier. You're going to know that you're not.
So what if we have the base part that user pass do the check or do the import verification with the sample file first, and additional if they want to make some make use of an additional check with their actual files.
I think that's a good. It's good to have this kind of laboratory files, the files that everybody knows that they are correct.
Yeah.
And then they can use their own files to give more feedback.
So
Go.
we do this before. Let me help by actually pointing to the spec of each of them. The reason I asked about following this number 6 case and how you have. Actually, we help customers asking, hey, in the viewer, can you consolidate or combine the type properties and the instant properties? Because in viewer, we don't have a separate representation for the type, right? So I was going to look into spec, what kind of spec on the override, the consolidation, the merge. So just following this idea, so going to this each item here, they are possible to point to exactly the sections in the ISO spec.
Is your fresh? No. That's a good idea, thanks.
You're right. Like some of this, like again, point one is a perfect big one, right?
Yeah.
There's some amount where we should be able to say, well, there's nothing we can write that either looks right or not. we need to have some sort of balance what the same what is something faceted the same or not? I agree. The same or not? The nerve surface. How many decimal places do have to be right in your calculation, which is my calculation?
Yeah, but I mean, remember the use case as well, right? This is, previous time we discussed this, we had the guy from Michael Baker. What was his name? His presentation. Yeah, program. Who showed examples of imported IoT where all of a sudden steel beams missing, or 5 of them appearing instead of 4.
Yeah, and
That's really
for the gross cases.
Yeah.
That's easy, right? You're right. Hey, half my project is in there. That's okay.
Yeah.
There's just no way around that.
Yeah.
But this is similar to the rest of the certification where there's just one person who doesn't understand that, the reason the demon is they didn't export it in the first place. Setting. Now, cargo, right?
Yeah, we're trying to, as you said, we have a couple of standard really good example models. Those first. We should move to that really
Yes, if there's testing and then, we can even give some feedback, hey, why fail isn't, or by the way, hey, great job, right?
I think the idea is also if you have the metrics. I mean, with the metrics of export, it's very clear, right? If you have one file that is incorrect, then something's wrong. But in imports, you could argue, I'm not, but you could argue that it's the other way around. So there is one import correct, that if all of the others fail, maybe it's the user error. So I think the metrics have a different meaning on import. Also, for me, the biggest open question, imagine you get the same t-shirt example model, for example, in hexagons, you have them imported by 10 people in the same version of the same software tool. It should be the same. But you're probably, I guarantee you, will get 10 different questionnaires and also how we're going to deal with that. Those are the biggest questions still before we can even start.
Just a point quick, said that putting the video on a knowledge base or something that says this is how you import the file. So if you get the error, then you can go and say, okay, here's how to export it. Did I did it that way, or do I need to call my consultant and say, please follow this rule for export? And if they follow that rule and the files fail, so that way you kind of eliminate creating the IRC file.
So, who is the Apple user? Random user? The user you choose? The user that we choose?
In principle, the idea is that anyone just downloads the example files from buildingSMART, fills out a questionnaire on how they experience that with their software.
For how long or how many iterations of submissions we constitute?
Yeah, that's the question.
We don't know.
And how are we going to check it's an actual user? And how are we going to check if the version of the tool that they provided in the questionnaire was actually correct or
Or we have 10 button presses and they all follow 9 of them correctly, and then the one they missed is wrong, or there's an environmental thing that's missing.
Yeah.
So even if you submit a video, the user might still produce an incorrect file. So how we can't check that.
I think those are still the more fundamental questions that we have.
But if the exports are actually happening using some IDS specification and different types of For example, even in cinema, real positioning. Then we need to probably write all those code rules and specifications.
So for imports, in the last 20 years already, the principle is that you need to support everything. You say that your tool support is you.
Go ahead.
I have an idea. Because I'm working with the country chapter. They have the local certification for import. So what about the working with the local chapter, the certification committee, and just to combine the certification requirement with the local certification.
We're happy to any kind of input. Yep, but like one side, we're happy and open to all kinds of input, no matter it's coming from a vendor or chapter. But on the other way around, we want the import certification is functional at the global level, like the export. Once it's certified, we know no matter which country, which software, it's functional, it's work.
In their opinion, I don't agree 100%, but in their opinion, their certification program is superior to the global certification program. So why don't you need to work with them? If their the requirements superior, I think we can acquire that one. Or if they're asking us too much, so I want to ask you to some kind of government.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we have multiple local certification programs. Our global vendors needs to pass local certification every country or every own. So that's a nightmare.
Yeah, I understand. But for this question, after the meeting, I'll head to Leo. If you still get any question around the new import certification idea, is still an idea, but you can find me, reach out me. Go ahead. Sorry.
We passed the deadline.
Sorry.
These are more high level questions. Are there any kind of canned value props or talking points that can help us as vendors motivate that crowdsourcing, motivate folks to take part in this as it goes forward?
We don't know yet. We're just starting the idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but
on that one, the second one then, like if that goes forward, what would be the mechanism for vendors to kind of see the aggregated feedback, the aggregated status of the feedback? Would there be a mechanism for that?
yeah, I think will be similar like scorecard. We will provide entrance of service data analytic for the software vendor to get view the actual report, detailed screenshots or videos. Yeah. So yeah, I will stop here. If you need, you can find my email and technical, or just tap technical@buildingSMART. Leon, Emmanuel?
Yeah. Well, it's a returning topic, and I think the returning answer is that can forward it to the people that make decisions on that.
Only there were a board member here.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Just curious, I mean, I've seen some certifications take a couple years to get certified. What are we expecting for a long certification?
Nice opening question for Alejandro.
Oh,
So on import or on exports?
yeah.
Yeah, imports, we're taking on certifications now. So I think we recently certified some Italian company as well. So If a company now emails us and says, we have import certification, we have import ready for order, we do online meeting, or in-person meetings or one of the things, we go over that checklist, then we have to provide email as well, so we know which to click on. And then when it's all good, we advance in the ledger, send out a press release. So quickly. Pretty quickly, yeah. If the implementation of the import is correct, yeah, that's usually the part that takes. And the same for export. So in general, again, I don't want to ruin the capacity of them, but again here, but we have that available as well. It's up and running, but yeah, especially for export, it seems to be really hard to consistently. Yeah, I'll leave that to the company. But also up and running, available. We have a half a dozen. And it's a lot cheaper as well. I'm not sure if these numbers are being shared. Are you sharing them?
The fee? No.
So import certification at €1,500, which is a lot of money for an hour Zoom call, but you get the brand name and the stamp and everything, right? And export certification, so the scorecard, plus the press release, plus the additional checking is €2,500. The reason why one is more than the other is because the value of export is higher than import is like an incidental check. There's no full guarantee that it works. While exports, we feel that the setup we have now is very strong. I mean, if you pass that, there's a high guarantee that your software is consistently producing valid items. So the perception, the value of the certification of export is higher than import, so that's also another question. But yeah, I think we discussed these prices before. It was like 10 or 20 times more before accepting pretty lower.
You do that again, right? That's what they will do here for certification.
No, 25.
Both
Yeah, both come with press release. So both come with press release and additional to the ledger. There are some caveats about duration and its per version, but again, I don't want to ruin
It's not in there, but
Okay.
we can discuss that. Multiple tools also probably get some sort of discount.
Yeah.
Like if you have multiple applications.
Yeah, we have someone that wants to have 10 applications that are all using the same kernel internally, import and export. So yeah, we get both discounts as well.
So in that case, what about the versions?
Yes, that's an interesting discussion. It's actually up for debate at the moment. So yeah, let me be very transparent here. Akka, for example, has the same internal IFC kernel they use for all of the tools. And also multiple versions of their tool use the same IFC code. It doesn't change. So we're also trying to figure out a solution.
And what about the live? Is the local chapter required every year has to take certification?
Yeah,
It takes research.
yeah, I don't understand. So from my perspective, if Revit 2025 is certified, you're not changing that software. So yeah, it's certified or not. So in principle, it's certified until proven that there's a bug. And then you don't fix that bug in 2025, you fix it in 2026. So it doesn't really make sense to say, to give it a timeline. So what we say that it's certified because we did not, it's just like a building permit where the municipality says, well, we agree that it's valid, but in the end, you're responsible yourself. So if we find something along the way, we can still retract the permit. It's a little bit the same. So we sent out a press release that at this day, this version of the tool has proven to be consistently valid, and it will stay that way until proven.
Okay, so the update covers a couple of things. Actually, it's quite rich. I'm happy to split it or interrupt it before lunch. I think the gist that makes sense that goes together is from 1 to 5. So the validation service update with a couple of new features, the header policy and the digital signatures A few people were interested in that, and then bridge it into the scorecards for software certification, because they are very tightly connected. And also talking about the quarantine feature allows us to discuss probably something that was also raised this morning about the go live date for the scorecard, so for the software certification, and the end of the beta phase for the validation service. The last item, I'm happy to take it to another time because it's a separate topic, is ISO work related, IFC 4.3, 4.4, the support that we need from you guys. So it can also be taken apart. So validation service update, first question by show of hands, who has never used validation service ever in the past?
I haven't. But I have been here so many times that I've heard enough.
Okay. Beside Pasti, that is. Okay, so everybody else there. Okay, wonderful. So I can be quick in the introduction. Just update, it's the latest version is 7.8.1. If you scan the QR code, there is a list of the release notes. You can subscribe so that you get a notification every time there is a new update of the service. The status of the rules or types of rules, layers of rules for the validation service, so syntax, schema, normative rules, and best practices was this in Budapest. I have to say we did a lot of rules development in the last few months. You know that these circles are not mathematically correct, so there are indications. So, but it is. I hope you can appreciate that in terms of maturity. I think we were confident that syntax and schema were mature enough. As a matter of fact, we didn't touch them for a while now. While normative rules and best practices, we felt that there was something more to work on. Now we are way more confident that what we have now, which is close to 100 rules, so also has an impact on performances, I have to say, but it makes us feel a little more, way more confident about the maturity of the scope of the checks that we perform. These, you already know what the validation service is, but this is a very nice entry-level page for whoever is not familiar with the validation service. So also if you have colleagues that want to understand what a validation service is and does, they have questions on the data protection policy or whatever, there is a nice FAQ section at the end of this page. So this is a nice entry point for you and your colleagues. And now I have a series of slides with some metrics that reinforce the feeling of a more mature service. So these diagram represents the total file uploads in the last almost 12 months, almost a year. So from quarter two of 2024 up to quarter two of 25. You can see there's a good numbers of files. So I had a conversation a couple of weeks ago with someone that believed that the validation service was a very prototypical experimental effort with a few hundreds of uploads. Well, that says otherwise. You can also appreciate the difference between users in purple and vendors in greenish. And also something we were discussing yesterday. So 2x3 and 4, you see that most is coming from the user, makes sense. While the split is almost 50-50 for 4 to 3. Again, it makes sense. Okay, we have a lot of vendors also that are experimenting with 4 to 3 and they're sending files to the validation service. We expect that with time, the proportion will align with the previous two versions. Nothing new other than the fact that, a lot of files. This is zoom on the last two quarters, so Q1 and Q2, showing something interesting in terms of IFC4 and 4.3. So we lately saw IFC4, we were discussing probably also this with Angel yesterday, IFC4 files, maybe it's just a coincidence, but in the last few months, ramping up compared to 2x3. 4.3 is the same, almost well, a little bit more than 50, maybe 60-40, but still with a lot of input from vendors. This is the upload per version in the last 24 months. So the purple line is 2x3. The greenish is IFC4, and the red is IFC4.3. You can see a growing trend. There was a drop in Q1. I don't know. But it's ramping up again, and also for this quarter, I don't have the final numbers yet, but it's keeping the same trajectory of the last segment, so it's still growing. This is new users registration, another metric that is interesting for you, for us also. Beside holidays, I think we can blame holidays. This is new users, okay? So again, you see a growing trend of users, almost exploding trend of new users, and yeah, we expect that after holidays it will keep growing with a similar rate. I don't have the number, but it's between 2,000 and 5,000 ballpark.
But if this continues, it could double by the end of the year.
Yeah. I expect a big difference when we announce the official versions instead of the beta, because we were discussing this for some reason. For some people, beta is still scary. Doesn't matter if it's 1 week into the beta phase or 2 years after the beta phase. So they still perceive that as beta, but now it's way more mature. You can argue that it's almost no longer beta version. Probably will not be in a few months. What is this? Oh, uploaders. So yeah, people that uploaded in 2025. This is only 2025, I guess. And the end users versus vendors. Question. So in a couple of ways, we introduce a pop-up when you register to the validation service. You get asked if you are a software vendor or working or affiliated to a software vendor. Basically, if you are going to upload file as a software implementer, we need that to exclude your files from the statistics. And we also have some algorithms that observes the pattern of the uploads, so that we have in our admin interface a way to override that. So sometimes we had people misunderstanding the question, to be safe, and declaring they were not vendors. And then we made a quick investigation. We understood they were implementers and uploading files for testing purposes. And then we flagged them as vendors, and those results were excluded. So first layer, self-declaration. Second layer, we do observe the trends. This is total number of model uploads, again with the split between end users and vendors. Similar to before, just in a different representation. But again, you see, if you make the addition of the file numbers, you have almost 3,000 files per month, almost consistently, except holidays. You or me? Can do that. This is also interesting. This is the distinct authoring tools, actually tools version observed in 2025. So I think the peak at the beginning is where we started tracking metrics. So at the beginning we had a lot of new tools and versions, but then consistently from March between 50 and 100, so probably something like 70, 80 new application versions. So it's not only Revit, but all the versions of Revit every month. So that's also good in terms of population for the scorecards. It's a rich population. Sorry? Yes, it's
We just change the way that we write the header with the same version.
Well, I'm gonna come back to that because we have a slide on this. So basically, it relies on the header and relies on you to write the header correctly. If you don't, we can't track you.
Or you check twice. Okay.
No, if what does it mean twice?
Yeah, separate.
Yeah, then, yeah.
Ah, yeah. If there's a type in your application name,
Bentley has 4,000 applications.
Okay, so that is more or less the update on metrics and maturity rules. Now I'm gonna quickly tap on the two features that we developed since Budapest. One is the header policy compliance check, and then the digital signature check. FYI, we are currently working in this sprint for giving you access, or giving anyone that is interested in testing access to the API for our development environment. A bit risky, I know, but we don't feel. First, we want to test with some users before giving access to the production data. So you're going to have exactly the same APIs that it will be available in production, just with development data. And so the data set is a little bit smaller. We're working on improving performances again, and only on rule fixes. So for this sprint, for example, we're not adding any new rules, and that's going to be the same for this quarter. We're not going to be adding any new rule for this quarter, just fixing rules. We still have a backlog, but not processing any new rules. And something that we will touch upon if we have time, the new functionality that we are brainstorming about, opting in for the users, opting in for vendor support when they upload files. I'm gonna clarify what that means, but this is very helpful for us and for you, especially for the quarantine feature. I'm gonna touch on that. Any questions so far before I go into the two features, header policy and digital signature? Okay, so first, for you to know that both features are actually already available. If you follow the release notes, you know that the header policy compliance check was completed and released in version 7.1, so beginning of March 25. And the support for digital signature, again, thanks to the experimentation phase with Autodesk and Trimble mainly, they provided a couple of examples. It's already available in version 7.6 since the end of May. I have to say that probably no users is getting any results of that or noticing that this is available simply because there are no signed files around. But I can provide some test files or demo files with digital signatures, the one that we use in our experimentation phase, just to demonstrate to you that the validation service already has that feature in production. And if you have any feedback on that, later I'm going to touch on this digital signature, how you can get this running, meaning how you can get a file and try it yourself. If you have feedback, we still have till the end of the year to fine tune this feature. I have the feeling you're about to ask a question. No.
No.
Okay.
I just really was who's interested in API dev.
Okay, noted. So API, yes. Okay, good. So first, the header policy compliance check. So every time I start with a why. So why we're doing these? Because also it's interesting. We are in Southern California, so the headers are the Wild West, and it's very difficult for us to get any sensible classification when the headers are not that much structured. So we decided that we needed to, well, not create the header policy because the policy already existed, but to enforce the policy that already existed and clarify when needed, and running some automated checks. So in this way, you guys have an incentive to comply to the header policy, but also some indications how to comply to the header policy in those areas that were not clear. If you scan the QR code, I think you're going to land
on that page, and in GitHub it's a page of the IFC implementers forum, tells you what the header policy is, what are the different fields that you need to provide, and what is the syntax for each of these fields. How does this look in the validation service? If there's anything strange or off in your header, well, if everything is fine, you get an information icon, the green information icon. You click on that, and you get all the metadata of the file, name, data, IFC version, and so on. All the information that we extract from the header. If there's something off in the header, you get a warning sign. Yeah, down there you see, for example, why there was a warning sign. So in this case, the originating system was missing or not compliant to the header policy, and we couldn't extract from this field the company name, the application name, the application version. If we can't do that, we can't affect your software, we can't classify that. So this is a screenshot from the header policy. It's originating system. You see the same property name of the application, including the field number. This is the example. In ENTD, whatever, version 25.1.0, with a space, dash separated. So the header policy tells you the syntax that you have to follow, how do you treat blank spaces or special characters, and provides examples on how you can comply with the header policy. This is an example of a good one. So the originating system is there. It's structured as requested, and so we were able to detect the company name, the application name, and the version. And these are very essential information for the scorecards and the software certification, and also, as we heard, for the import certification. Probably we're gonna have to rely on the same three information: company, application name, application version. What is the impact on the scorecards? Well, when we get something like this, it will not end up in the scorecard because we don't know where to place it. And when we get something like this, we can place the outcomes of the validation in the scorecard. Okay. So short term, if we get the right information in the header, you end up in the scorecard. Otherwise, it doesn't. Any questions on these features? The header policy is pretty simple and straightforward, and we don't stress all the fields of the header. So there are many fields in the header. Most of them we don't really care if you provide them or not. Most of them are optional, but those three are actually that one originating system with a certain syntax is very, very important. So that's the only one that is preventing your file to contribute to the metrics of the scorecard if you get it wrong.
Quick question. So, wonderful example. It turned out this is a lot.
Yeah, I think I made it up.
Sure, yes, it's completely fake. But if there were development versions, I assume those are scorecard.
I think in that case, another filters comes in, which is if there are development versions, can only be uploaded by an Autodesk employee, and so they are by definition filtered out. Any other questions on this feature?
So if I'm a software tool and I know my user has created a preset that is our official preset allowed, we'll get an error in validation. And just choose to export it with a header that is not.
We put that
Yeah, I know. Clearly.
Yeah, you can. But then I think someone made a similar. Probably I got this comment from Angle. If public clients rely on the results of the validation service, which I hope they will, and then they complain with Autodesk that their file is not passing, then all of a sudden Autodesk will have issues answering, yeah, it's not passing because there is an error, and so we're preventing that to show up and da da da.
For legal reasons, Autodesk is just an example.
Yeah, it's very much an example. Yeah. Okay. Digital signature. Again, we had a very nice experimentation phase with a lot of vendors. Mainly Autodesk and Trimble provided some examples. Others try to import signed files. If you scan the QR code, in this case, you get redirected to a box folder where all the meetings, the example files are uploaded, so you can get up to speed. It's not a lot of meetings, it's 2 or 3 meetings, and then there is a nice demo recording of the feature itself. So I strongly recommend to look at that recording. It's only 45 minutes and gives you a complete overview. If you check the dates, it's the last one, so it makes sense because it's the most complete and comprehensive. But the main 2 reasons, so probably I'm going to stress the point here, the main 2 reasons why we are developing this digital signature, which is a very wide technology and could be used for many use cases that we are not interested in. The 2 that we are interested in are checking that the file has not been tampered with, so the integrity of the file. There is not a comma or a space difference from one file to the other, and then the authenticity, so making sure that the file that says Libri in the header, Akka in the header, it's actually coming from that application. Okay. What does it check? Well, it checks a blob at the end of the file. So we had a discussion. If you're interested, get in touch. We can cover why we're using a comment and not an actual section of the file. Short answer is because to make life easier for import tools, and also because the IFC standard doesn't reference the latest version of the step standards that allows us to rely on these signature blocks that are defined by the latest step standard. So we tweak that, we mimic the principle by using the same signature and section keywords, but it's everything wrapped as a comment. So basically there's the comment, signatures, the signatures itself, and the section. So that's what it's being checked. Similarly to the header policy, you get a red icon when it's something is off with a signature, and a green icon when something is it's okay. So when something is wrong, also the information is pretty minimal. We can discuss, we're open to feedback on that, but in this case, it's just there is a payload. That's the blob that we observe, starting at line this, ending at line this, and we don't know what it is because we can't compare this with any public certificate that we have in our repository. While if you get a green icon, you get a lot more data because we are able to compare the payload with the public certificate that we have in our database. So in this case, we have the issuer, the subject, the signature, hash algorithm, the RSI key size that we use, a couple of dates, the fingerprint, and then the same payload. So we get a lot more data because we're able to compare that against, let's see if I have it. Yeah, against dates, which is the example certificate that we use. So there is a repository validation such service that vendor certificate where we expect you guys to upload the public certificate so that we can use that to compare it with a payload in the digital signature file. So that's the idea. That's what we tested in our experimentation phase. Similar to the previous feature, consequences for the scorecard to be decided today, I hope. When there's no signature, it doesn't end up in the scorecard. When there is a signature, it ends up in the scorecard. Of course, this behavior is not implemented yet. So the feature is implemented, but the filter for the scorecard is not activated yet. If we do that, the scorecards will go blank because because nobody is signing files yet. But the intention, especially when we go public, is that we built this feature for being safer and to get to have a higher degree of trust towards the end users. So the idea is that we would like this feature to be in place when scorecards go live. So it's input. Does it make sense?
Be able to have the additional scorecard during a transition period. Our own unofficial.
Yes, that's the case at the moment. We have the scorecards, let's say official, not public, but official scorecards without this filter in place. So at the moment, I'm observing the results of everyone that is complying to the header policy. So the header policy filter is in place, but the digital signature filter is not there. We can keep monitoring that, and then only activate it at a certain point. The question is, do we go public with the scorecard in 2026 with or without this filter in place? I guess that the question is probably for you in terms of when do you think you can implement these signatures and release it in your applications so that we can start seeing files from users that are signed.
When would you want it now? That's 1.0. What's the intention?
The end of the year.
Universities, you can't use that excuse.
If we conclude the beta phase of the validation service by the end of the year, and then let's say, okay, we are confident that validation service is mature version 1.0, the next immediate move would probably be, okay, so now we can release the scorecard. Hold on. Can we or not?
So you wouldn't have that if you say Revit implements the signature. It will be in the future version of Revit. So older versions of Revit wouldn't have that. So
Yeah, well, that's for us. Well, if we introduce a signature, we would have the ability to it would be future version in the sense that it still needs to get done update.
yes,
So we'd be able to say, hey, IFC export has been updated, download just that.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
26.5.4. Now, as soon as you did that, and then in future, so yeah, so at first it'd be 0. Right? We don't have signatures. We wouldn't have any major release.
Yeah. You are, then will be and you are happy. So it's next.
February.
So why? That's project management. Yeah, I don't really understand signing files. Process by management. Now you are signing a file. And I think this is a little bit for that. Probably have score of this is the use of one, and we are still sorry for the entity. So our users do not understand what.
I think that's why I stressed the use cases at the beginning. So digital signature is a very wide technology and sometimes scary words because then most people are. I also got this question. So then you're signing files. It means that you're signing off the design or signing on off the content. No. You're putting a blob at the end to make buildingSMART know that this file is coming from Tekla. So I think I understand that there is a challenge to communicate to users that this signature is not actually signing off any content, any design, any business, any process, any project, nothing related to that. So if there was a way to hide these from users, we would happily do that.
That's kind of the reason why they have this problem is the name. Them signing the content means totally different thing for them than for us. And we're still trying to say for our users, still detailers that yes, you sign your content, but not in the way you understand that you're signing.
That's a very good feedback, actually. So agreeing among ourselves that the technology that we're using is a digital signature. Do you think we can brand it as something different to stress the fact that this is a kind of a stamp for buildingSMART?
By altering the application.
But it's more than just signing that it comes from Tekla, right? I mean, the same use case, the same technology can be used for receiving parties to check if the file has been altered.
It's like a tamper-resistant seal on all the medicine.
Right, but it's not you saying this is valid or you shall contact tomorrow, right?
We should just come up with a different brand for that.
Digital. Okay.
That's solid. You're trying.
Seals.
Yeah, the PEs and architects, they put the seal that, yes, this is valid. But kind of like in the application.
Authenticity.
Authentication.
Yeah.
Authentication. This is an authentic file.
Yeah, but it's tied to the application. It's just this application created this file and it came up. It is not saying that the content in that file is correct. It's just the software generated application, the IFC, and this file.
Okay. Digital authentication.
Authenticity. Authenticity.
Authenticity. Authenticity is an attribute.
Yeah.
Right? If something has authenticity, that's authentication. Say that it has.
Yeah.
Now we're talking grammar here for sure, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm happy to have native speakers in the room. So go ahead with your suggestions.
So is authentic the right prefix?
Yeah, this authentications, digital authentication sounds better because of the one. Security authentication, the application that you have. Application.
Yeah, application authentication. Yes. Yeah, digital application authentication. So, yeah, surround it like that. And then I would see that our end users not be scared. Yeah. Digital application.
Okay. Digital application. So I'm assuming it applies to anything you want to sign.
Okay. So but then it goes basically to actually out of that, are you gonna support it or if I want to do a 2x3? Okay.
It's just it's text. I don't care.
New 2 or 3 files exported using the new version of the IFC exporter to Revit will have that.
Okay. But so let's say I exported it, I built a bridge and I got the delivers for the leading and everything. They were done this year. If I upload it, and the signature not gonna be, but it was my leading model and everything. That's where everything came from. So that will not be included into the validation.
Unless you re-export it with a signature,
I guess you get the
is maybe there'd be some service. I don't wonder, like the whole point of authentication is at the point that we actually created the file, no chance of intervention. Right? So at this point, it's exactly what we said. Once that paper can be modified in any way.
No, I'm just making sure that they don't get, basically you guys don't get punished. Because if I did it today and I upload it, I get everything green. And when that comes up, and it was my meeting document, I said, okay, everything's good, but then now doesn't have the digital and they get punished. Or it's not included in the document.
Although I said that I didn't want to involve. Well, it's the blockchain technology is related to this kind of holding this kind of discussion.
I think also, but I think when we started the discussion, we understood that there are also some use cases of the digital signature where probably overkilling also for these. So the use case of these is so simple. Because I mean, checking that there is no one character difference and checking that the blob matches with the certificate, so there is coming from that application. Going to blockchain is way more.
That's blockchain technology. Because people are speaking about blockchain and in the end ending up with those kind of technology without implementing the real blockchain. The technology is there.
Yeah, but at the beginning we made the assessment and we thought that's way too complicated and way difficult for the use cases that we're dealing with. I'm not saying it's the wrong technology. Probably the same technology can do the same job. This is way. How much did it take to implement a digital signature like this?
Couple of days.
Just a matter of convenience and technology being already fully compliant with what we needed.
Yeah, sure. I believe blockchain is it's fit better when you have distributed database. Okay? As soon as you have just one database and you are using blockchain, it sounds like rocket science because you are using distributed techniques to make it everything together there.
To formalize it.
There are other ways to formalize it. For example, some time ago, I made a formalized due to owner history. The sign, the digital sign was on owner history, not on the entire project. So, yeah, it's you have less data to check it because just owner history and the hash of the data, of course, and it fits well. You don't need every layer of work. You can check it. It's okay because of the hash, because of the signer, and you can confirm the author. You can confirm the time. You can confirm the content. So everything is stored in just one place database, and doesn't need the blockchain. But another project I used blockchain just because like ISO 1965, you have 4 states of data, and the last one is archive. So the idea was we have archived. Why one company must save all the data, and since many others are working together, and I use blockchain for that, just because the data be spread between the stakeholders. That's I don't know if I made myself clear, but my idea was say that blockchain doesn't fit well. It sounds like a rocket science, and you just need the kind of secure of author, the author to check the author, contents and time. It sounds like rocket science because of that. You have to make many process in many nodes to just check it. That's it.
Conscious of time, so that we break for lunch at 12:30 sharp. So we have 5 minutes. I think we covered almost everything about evaluation service, but we haven't touched upon the scorecard. I'm happy to do it in another part of the agenda if that helps. So I think the last slide on the validation service is what. So at the moment, this is to answer also your question. So at the moment, ask users to confirm. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, the other way around. So at the moment we ask already this. So if you are affiliated with vendors or not, okay, when you register. What we are considering is also adding another opt-in feature for sharing files or giving us permission to share files with vendors only for the purpose of and resolution of IFC validation service errors. So not for marketing purpose, not for any other purpose. So of course, this will come together with probably a tweak or another clause of the terms and conditions that users already signed when they registered. This is basically allows us to be able to share with you portions of the files. For example, when we perform the investigation during the quarantine feature for the scorecard, something that we can't touch now because it's part of the second part of the presentation. So that would help us to collaborate with you on the resolution of the validation service error. I have the feeling I know your feedback on this, but still I want to ask opinions or feedback on this idea. Potential issues that you oversee, that you envision.
Would there be any like manual work on your part if you are not sharing the whole file? Well, the other thing is that like you would also then need the original thing, cat file to duplicate it.
Yeah, then I think we can't go that far. So what we can do is, at the moment we're getting some error, and even when vendors when users reach out to us, the first thing is that we need to understand which rule failed on which entity, and then the first thing is that we open up the file. So for us to do the investigation, and also for you to perform a similar thing, at least you need the validation service rule that is failing and the IFC file. If the IFC file is too big or there are portions of the file that we still don't feel confident to share, we might be taking a snapshot of the file and share just that. But basically, this allows us to share even the entire file with the confidence that the users allowed us the right to do that. We're going to work on the actual sentences, but the idea is that only for IFC validation service resolution purpose.
Is that like one time question that any file that this user uploads can be shared, or would that be like if it fails, please contact me and ask for permission?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, good point. I think we can tweak. This is why we're asking feedback. I think we can tweak that and apply this not to every file, but only to failing files.
Yeah, and even for the failing files, maybe share the portion that you would share with the if they want to review what you are sharing with the vendor before sharing.
Well, in that case, I will make my life easier and share the entire file.
Yeah, but
You're saying like, hey, before you share prison.ifc with them, give me a final yes or no.
yeah. I mean, yeah. If the user is willing to share the whole IFC file, of course that's the easiest. There is not much work to do that. I think it's like some manual work for you or somebody to see what's wrong and then take that part. And of course, that's people are happier to share a snippet. Like you cannot.
That, yeah, I agree that there should be another one that says, make sure and put all your information there. Because if I'm submitting a file and got some errors, I would like to know what's going on. So it will be good for the customers that uploaded the file that they have that you guys have the contact information. So share it with the vendor and say, here's the file, here's their contact information. So they can just, okay, your file was wrong because of this. So there's kind of a little bit of a loop feedback. But I don't know if that will be beneficial because that will add more for the social benefit.
And you as well.
Yeah.
So, one problem we are having is that on the business to business area. Yes, there is a single file working from A, getting that file from company B. They get no rights for distributing a file that is proper. They are only allowed to use it, even this powerful form. And failure, they are not able to send the file because they don't have the rights. And they might be a close relationship, trust us enough, but how to build that trust for building. And then basically stating that, yeah, we are actually keeping the file for marketing purposes. So they are clearly violating.
In that
their
scenario, shouldn't that file not even be uploaded to the validation service at all? If they're only allowed to use that and not share it, probably they shouldn't upload it to the validation service in the first place.
I think the only way it can actually work with the business is that the one exporting the file also validates the file. There's the validation report of the one using. If they have problems, they can have send the validation report. Hey, I'm good with my file because they have the ones.
Yeah.
It's their model. One getting the data can get the validation report based on authentication, basically all the file to be happy with your vendor.
Yeah.
Because this is valid content. So that way it works that not the one getting the file. They should not actually have it wrong. It is that really send.
Okay.
So, there could be a lot of expectations from the owner side that people usually from the owner perspective, very wild. But yeah, from the consultant.
No, I think that's kind of on. I think UT owners, if they have hire consultants to use the design, we're going to want to validate those files that they're good, right? And so that's it.
Would you do that, Matt? Would you send you a file for you to validate yourself?
Well, there was another conversation at one point, and maybe this is a parking lot issue, that you could get a BSI stamp that says this file passed a validation service, and that's attached to it, similar to the digital signature, right? So you can say the file hasn't been tampered with, and it did pass the service. Maybe that's what we've been looking for, instead of writing this. So we want that stamped valid file.
And what we're saying, like, it's not our right to upload the DOT's work to a site that could be, you guys get hacked.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm not entirely sure. I guess there's issues with it. Is it before you put it out for contract?
not even
Procurement? I mean,
so
yeah.
we're facing that issue with like a lot of AI work. We approach DOTs, I think, do some of your data, and a lot of them will say yes, or a lot of them will say no, because of security. Even if the job is over, completed.
Yeah.
The data security are not getting.
Yeah.
And it's also not you're paying less to. All of the
But that could be an additional comment on this. Specifying that, yes, you upload the file and we keep it for this amount of time. That way, if the person is, okay, I'm comfortable uploading and be there and then it comes out.
Yeah, it's all the state parts that I should say. Make sure that, yes, you are allowed to use our data or DOT's data. It'll be a legal issue there. It will, but if we're gonna, owners are gonna expect, if file has been through the validation service, then they're gonna have to make allowances, but it's gonna have to be worked out on that. Who's gonna do?
I think this is more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Design concept. And this. Never cases of that. At some point, let's stop it. Then it's not a.
One thing that comes to mind is I wonder, we just test this. Everyone says no. It's not working, right?
Yeah, I think so. But so to test these, like a quick rephrase, so not to make it too generic, so only applicable to fail files, and maybe it be even more specific. Only the relevant portions of the files will be shared. So not only filling files and only the relevant portions. Let's start with that. Let's see how users react, and then we can adjust. There is another part of the presentation on the scorecards and the go live date for the validation service and scorecard, the quarantine feature, which is the last missing piece of the puzzle, but we have to go to lunch. So happy to do that in another part of the day or even tomorrow.
Just follow up your slides after.
Okay, lunch is?
That's in the building.
We just go out and cross. Okay, yes.
Can we leave stuff here?
I think so. I'll just double check. Yeah.
So after lunch, we continue scorecards certification.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be fine.
We have quick ESG updates on each other as well, and type update. Maybe we'll move the ESG update to 2 hours depending on target discussions. We're pretty flexible